Drake, Kendrick Lamar. A feud over a decade old now roiling across the social media landscape. Celebrity news we may or may not be learning against our will. And whoever side you're on, you can find the gritty details at the end of a quick Google search. Now, it's easy to get lost in the electric of this, but there's something important being nudged in this exchange. There's a whole conversation happening underneath, both within this feud and in the rumblings of our world. AI and art. Also at the end of a quick Google search are countless AI-powered voice packs and generation tools claiming that you can replicate both Lamar and Drake's voices. Drake used AI-generated voices to feature Snoop Dogg and the late Tupac Shakur in the diss track Tailor Made. Tupac's estate was extremely unhappy about it. And Snoop was Snoop about it.
They did what? When? How?
And it's this reaction that most of us have, I think. Our brains are still catching up to how fast AI is developing, how slowly it's being regulated, who's using it, and what it's being used for. What does it mean when someone this close to the top of a creative industry makes the decision to use AI in this way? These are all questions that point to the bigger questions thought only to exist in the theaters of science fiction. But this one, especially in an age where the cybernetic line, the line between the real and the hyperreal, is so very, very blurred. Yuval Noah Harari, the writer of the book Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, he ends the book with this question. What will happen to society, politics, and daily life when non-conscious but highly intelligent algorithms know us better than we know ourselves? And what better way to know ourselves than through what we create, through our art?
I think music is spiritual. Cultivated feelings, cultivated memories, everything that encompasses that individual at that moment in time.
I think that the mixed reaction to it shows that we're not sure where we're going with this. You have an industry that is moving further into this whole world, but then you have the artists looking at this and saying, what's going to happen to us? Are our stories no longer going to be valid?
Man, it's scary, I would say. And it's crazy to hear on how fast AI is evolving and on how fast we will have to adjust in order to catch up to what AI is doing in our lives. And it's not different in music.
I would say it's a gift and a curse, I actually heard a story the other day. So I remember you telling me you wanted to interview me about this. This country artist, I believe he was in a fatal injury, a vocal cord was strained, so he can't sing anymore. But he still comes up with his lyrics and gets AI to mimic his voice and make those songs for him. Now, I understand that that's fully justified. An individual that can't do what they're called for, can't do what they love, can't pursue their purpose. AI has provided them a platform to still exercise their God-given abilities, their talents. That's honorable, right? But then there's the shortcuts, right? Or there's people who just use AI for music to make their lyrics or make their song. God forbid, we just lose the internet tomorrow. Are those artists making music?
Artists have become content creators and less artists. If you have all these metrics that are in front of your face all the time, the metrics that are now visible to the world, then you may want to use that cheat code to get you further ahead. And that cheat code may be AI. Does that help you in the long run? Does that allow you to have a career? Does that help you to hone your craft? Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours, right? AI doesn't have to have the 10,000 hours to get great at what it does, but you as a human have to. And the 10,000 hours that you put into it, there are going to be things that you experience during those 10,000 hours that can create things that AI can't create. So there's something to be said about artist development. There's something to be said about having those moments where you fail in a moment, and then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure things out. One of the reasons why, and it's so crazy now that I think about it, one of the reasons why we as human beings have been able to create the things that we've created is the fact that we've been given the opportunity to fail. We fail, we have to innovate something and create something that is going to help us overcome something. So then we have to really think, and we have to study and look at everything, and like sometimes go back and research, go back and like study people and certain things that they've been able to achieve or not achieve. And in doing so, ideas are born that would not be born if we always had the cheat code to just get us to where we need to be.
It complements an artist's lacks. Like, for example, I'm a producer. I work on a song, and not always I have the budget, accessibility to someone to create a cover art for my song. I would resort to AI, and I actually would go on an AI platform and type in the prompt that I think would reflect what the song is about. I think it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing, and not only for people like me, but for people that wouldn't have access to a whole community like the way I have, or that we have here in the West. I see a lot of African kids that don't have access to the resources that we have, but they do have a computer and they have OpenAI. They can type in a prompt and they can generate art from that. So from the result of that, those prompts, we can get access to the product of their imagination as well. From the technology that I have been exposed to, it required a person to still write a prompt. I would still consider it a product of someone's mind and someone's imagination, which is the aspect of AI that I like. It's not something that just comes from out of nowhere. You still need a human. I think there is still gonna be a point where AI is gonna evolve to a certain point where it's gonna do great music. However, there is just something about the human being that I haven't been able to see that in AI yet, especially in the field of music, where I listen to a song and yeah, that's not it. It's a nice song, it's nice, but that human element is something that, working in studio scenarios for so long, I can hear that there is something missing.
It can create, but can it perform? As an artist, I would assume an audience would want to see a human being up there performing that can actually connect with them and engage with them. Are we going to get to the point where it'll be a robot like Ex Machina? They're able to move as humans, but are they going to be able to create that connection with an audience? As intelligent as the technology is, it can't think without us providing it with prompts, but it also doesn't have a soul for it to actually be conscious of the things that it's doing. It's doing it because it knows that 1 + 1 = 2. But as human beings, we know that there is the
living aspect, the acquiring a large enough palette to write a song about, like the human aspect of waking up every day to go to a job, or struggling academically, or struggling to have self-belief or self-confidence, and working your way up from the bottom, you know? You have to put in the work. That's one thing that I've learned with music. When I first started making music, I thought I was gonna make a hit song when I was 18 and I'll get all this money, but it's not how it works. Sure, you might have the height for it, but you gotta learn the fundamentals, and you can't cheat the steps, you know? There's certain things that you can't skip along the journey that like will make an artist, you know? Will make you appreciate creation, like the long journey of learning, unlearning, discovering, rediscovering, fear, love, hate, abandonment, Like there's so many emotions that like we feel that we can express in music.
It's always about sharing, I would say. It's always about sharing. Being able to relate to each other's, a collective mind almost. I think that's what attracts us to really good art, a really good piece of art. May it be music or good painting or a good movie. I think people can relate to it. And I would just mimic the words of a famous musician that I like. His name is Wynton Marsalis. He's a trumpet player. He said the thing that AI doesn't have, and he even goes farther in saying that the thing that AI will never have is intentionality. My favorite songs, the songs that I really like, they have these imperfections in them, but those are sometimes choices of the person that is working on the song. And I love artists because of that, because where does art come from? Like, where does a song come from? We don't know that. Like, is there a higher power that feeds us these thoughts? So I think AI doesn't have access to something like that, something greater. Art is nature. It's nature. It's everything around us, it's alive.
Living a whole life, trials and tribulations, overcoming, underachieving, failure, success, like so many things that you have to learn and experience on this planet. Working on yourself, trying to become the best version of yourself. These are all things that make us human. Learning from our mistakes and trying to elevate and trying to grow.
The fear that we have is one that we are going to overcome. Sometimes I think that we're too smart for our own good, but I do think we're smart enough that we'll be able to figure out a way to make things work and create new opportunities. Because if you look at the introduction of cars, from horses to that, it was like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. But it's like, no, we just have to figure out new routes to things. We have to figure out new ways of doing things, and new jobs get created based off of this. It's still too early to be afraid, but we do need to be mindful of it.